time for What's Your Testimony? The show where we listen to you, affecting people one person at a time, meeting them where they are in life, and bringing them one step closer to Christ and His glory, empowering, encouraging, and inspiring people to use their God-given talent. What's your testimony? What's your testimony? What's your testimony? What's your testimony?
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Angie Hodges, and I am one of the hosts for WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting. What's Your Testimony? Thank you for joining us. We broadcast every Sunday at 3 p.m. I am so honored and excited about our guest today. Our guest is Terry Jackson and her lovely daughter, Taraya. We're so happy to have you. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. And I just want to give a little bit of an intro to Terry. She is the author of Proven: A Journey of Faith. And she is the mother of 4 amazing children. And when her oldest daughter was diagnosed with cancer, she started a team called Miracles. She has an amazing testimony, and I am sure that you'll be blessed by this. And please share it with friends and family and bless them as well. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
So can you just tell us, so you have 4 children. Tell us, I see beautiful Taraya here. Tell us about the rest of your children, all of them.
Taraya is my oldest. I have a 10-year-old son, and I have 4-year-old twins.
Oh, wow. I know you're busy.
I'm very busy.
I'm a mother of 4 as well, but you still have the real little ones. Mine are my youngest one is 13 right now, so I know you're definitely busy.
Yeah, I am.
And so can you just tell me how this journey started with Taraya being diagnosed with cancer?
I took Taraya to the emergency room because her ankle was swollen, and I actually thought she had just twisted her ankle. I didn't know that what I was dealing with at the time. So when I took her to the emergency room, they did an x-ray, and they came back and they told me it was either a fracture or cancer, which is totally 2 different things. But that was the first thing that was told to us.
Wow, what polar opposites? You said a twisted ankle or fractured ankle or cancer?
Yes, a fracture. It was either fractured or it was cancer.
I mean, as a mom, I just know, you are probably at a place where, those are polar opposites and polar type of situations. Mm-hmm. What was going through your mind?
At the time, I had just given birth to my twins. My twins were 6 months old at the time. So I was trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. But the hardest part was waiting. We had to wait to find out what exactly we were dealing with. So it was just weeks of going to different doctors to kind of find out what it was. And everybody was kind of bouncing around the word cancer. They really didn't want to say cancer. So once we finally figured out what it was, then we were able to deal with that.
And so how did you explain this to Taraya? Because at that time, had she ever really even heard of that or understood what that was?
No, she didn't understand right away. When I first told her, we actually told her in the emergency room that it could be cancer. And she just smiled, okay. But she really didn't know what cancer was at the time, so she wasn't in any fear at that time. And so once we found out that she had cancer, that's when we sat down and kind of broke down the process of her. She's going to lose her hair and different stuff like that, and just kind of instilled in her, you're still beautiful, even though your hair is gone. That does not make you who you are. And so the more we got to talk to her about it, the more comfortable she became with it.
Wow, and that's so wonderful, yes. And that's a lesson that even many of us as adults need to learn, is that we are not this outside frame, you know, that God has given us. There's so much more inside of us. So that's wonderful that she was able to understand that at such a young age.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
And so after they gave you the diagnosis, lead me on as to what happened after that point.
Okay. So she was diagnosed on January 24th of 2013 with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. And it was in her right above her ankle in her right leg. And so immediately they started her on chemo to kind of shrink the tumor, but instead of shrinking, the tumor got bigger. And so they said the only thing that they could do was to amputate her leg. And she was not okay with amputating her leg. I really wasn't okay with making that decision. So we went to Philadelphia, to CHOPS Hospital, which is the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, to get a second opinion. And when we got there, the doctor there said that he could save her leg, but that leg would be shorter than the other leg, and that she will have eventually back problems because she'll have a limp. And it was just so much stuff that he said came with saving, and keeping her leg. And so she didn't want to have her leg amputated. So we just prayed and we asked God to really just send us a sign on what to do, because I knew that would change her life forever. And I really could not make that decision by myself. And so we prayed right there in the hospital, and we went downstairs and they were raffling off these baskets to raise money for the hospital. So I put in a few tickets and we sat down and we were just sitting there waiting for the tickets to be called and everything. And this group of women got off the elevator. And the more they came to me, I could not take my eyes off of them. I couldn't understand why I kept looking at this lady. And she came on around and she was on crutches. And then I looked down and she had one leg. So I jumped up and I went to her and I was like, hey, we're thinking about amputating my daughter's leg. Could you come and talk to her? We're trying to, comfort her and everything. And she came over and she was like, hi. And my daughter said, hi. She said, my name is Shantae. She's like, well, what's going on with you, Soraya? And my daughter was like, I have osteosarcoma. And she was like, wow, guess what? And then she said, I had the same cancer, and they had it in the same leg. And so after talking to her, my daughter immediately, she was okay with it. She said, they can take my leg. Right then and there, she had peace. But before that, she was really, really scared. And so I just think and praise God, because he gave her peace right away with it. And that was hard for me.
Praise God. And it is just so amazing how he can just line things up. You've never had even encountered anyone with this particular cancer. And then at this moment, when you're at this place of asking God, why, what should I do? How do I handle this? He put someone in front of you that can help you. I mean, it's wonderful how he sits angels in front of us at just the right time.
Yes, that's what that was. And so we went back to Virginia. She had her leg amputated on April 30th of 2013. And 3 days later, she was walking with a walker. So I thank and praise God for that. But her healing, she speedily recovered. And after that, we went back home. She started cheerleading with Youth League.
Cheerleading? Wow!
She did. She started cheerleading with the Youth League. And they ended up, started fitting her for a prosthetic and everything. She still was doing her chemo treatments and stuff. And so one day we were in for chemo, and she started having these really, really bad chest pains. And so they came in with the EKG. They did all these different tests, and they could not find nothing wrong with her. And they was giving her morphine, and it was not working. She was still in pain. And so that happened, and they still continued the chemo, and then we went home, and then we came back for another chemo treatment, and she had the pain again. And that's when I decided to cancel the chemotherapy. I stopped it against the doctor's will, everything. And they were like, are you scared that it might come back? And I was like, no, I'm not scared about that. I believe, when her leg was amputated, it was gone. And I didn't want her to be in pain still, using the chemo. And so the reason they explained to me, the reason why they kept doing the chemo is to make sure that when they cut off her leg, that if any cells travel, with them cutting off the leg, that, they will be able to kill it. And so that was a hard decision to decide to stop it against the doctor's will. But in doing that, we discovered that the chemo had damaged her heart. And that was really, really a big thing. And I was kind of angry at first, but I was like, God, I know they were doing their best. And so after that, they put her on this medicine and everything to help her with the heart. And so she did that for a while. We went on with life. I took her to Disney World, and we were excited because, just to get back to living normal again, And so we came back home, and one morning she woke up and she said, Mom, I can barely breathe. And she started having this headache, and then she started vomiting. And I rushed her back to the emergency room, and that's when we found out that her heart was failing. And this is around Thanksgiving of 2013. And so they had hooked her up back in the machines, and, they were running all these tests, and they were doing all these things to try to correct what the chemo had damaged, but the heart was gone too far. So we ended up having a meeting at the hospital with all the top doctors down at VCU. And, they had called my family in, and they were thinking about putting Soraya on an LVAD machine. And she would have been the second child in the United States with this machine. But they could not tell me how the first child was doing. And that was the problem for me. And I could not, just put her on that. And so that night, they also decided that they were going to put her on the heart transplant list. And I was okay with that. And so we went back into the room, and I just cried. I remember just crying and crying and crying. And I cried and prayed until I fell asleep. I literally cried and prayed and fell asleep. And so when I woke back up, I was waking up to the nurses standing over me, shaking me, saying, you need to come to the phone. We have a phone call you have to take. And I went out, outside of the room. It was the nurse station. So I went outside. When I got to the nurse station, all of the nurses were around the nurse station with tears in the eyes, and I'm wondering what is going on. And so I picked up the phone, and it was the doctor, and he says, we found Soraya a heart. And I'm sitting there like, you gotta be kidding. My daughter was only on the list for 36 hours, and they found her a heart.
Wow.
Yeah.
This story is just, I know that people are being blessed by listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a parent, just as a person that loves young people, to know that you as the mother had to, that's really our worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Many times we can take whatever it is that happens to us. We may not like it, but we can handle it. But when it's our child, when we see our child going through such a rough spot, challenges that, that most adults can't even handle. To hear that first she has cancer, and then next that she'll need to be placed on a heart transplant list. That test, to weather that storm, I'm just overwhelmed just talking about it, because I'm placing myself where you're at as much as I possibly can, and it's overwhelming. And to see how you were able to have the strength, and if there's anyone watching here that is in this situation, or their child is facing some type of illness, I just pray that you are gathering the strength that you need, that Terry's story is serving just like that woman that came and was an angel to her, that she's being, her testimony right here is an angel and a help to you in your life right now.
Yeah.
And so after 36 hours, you're told that she has a heart available.
Yes, we were told that a heart is available. And so I remember just thanking and praising God. Everybody in the hospital were celebrating, and it was just a big, really, really big deal at the time. And so one thing we had to do, we had to wait for the heart to come back because the heart was being transported from Florida. And so we found out on the 12th that she was receiving the heart, and the transplant wasn't going to happen until the 13th because we had to wait for the heart to come because that's the last organ they take out of a donor's body. And so we were in the room, and all the family had got there. They let us take over the waiting room pretty much. My entire family was there. We spent the night in the waiting room. But we were sitting there watching TV in the waiting room, and Soraya was in a wheelchair, and she rolled herself over into the corner. She had just received a boogie board as a gift from one of the guests that was there with us. And she began to draw in the corner, and she drew this picture. And I have this is my book. I'm going to show you all if you can see it. But on the cover of the book, if you can see it, this picture right here, this is what she drew. And if you can see it, it says heart. And this is the lightning rod going into the heart. And it says power. And then over here it says God. And so she drew that picture, sitting in there, waiting. We're sitting here watching TV, not really paying attention to what she did. She was like, "Mommy, look what I draw." And my friend was like, "Let me take a picture of that. That is so beautiful." And we, just going on about our business, really didn't pay attention to what she had drew. And so they came to get her for her heart surgery, and they told me it was going to take a certain amount of hours, and she might not wake up after the surgery and all this other stuff they had told me about it. So they took us on to surgery, and I went back to the room to lay down while the surgery was going on. But within hours of the surgery, I had this knock on the door, and they were banging so hard that I was really scared to go to that door. And when I opened the door, it was a doctor there crying. And she was in tears. So I was thinking, okay, my daughter has died. Like, I really thought my daughter had died. And she was like, no, nothing's wrong. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. She was like, I've been a Catholic for so long, and I've never seen anything like this. And so when she came in, she told me, she said, normally when they connect the heart, they normally have to restart it with a machine, or they have to tap it to restart it. But they said when they unclamped the heart on Soraya, the heart started by itself. And so she was in tears. She was just overwhelmed about it. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And I said, "Hold on. Let me show you this picture, what she drew earlier." And she was like, "What?" And so once I looked at the picture, I realized that God had already told Soraya that he was going to power the heart when he showed her. I mean, the lightning rod was going right to the heart, and it said power. He had already allowed, just comfort her in that corner, and we were, just talking and everything, and we had just missed his presence, just like that easy. He had answered everything.
That is amazing. And so, Soraya, you are also a graphic artist. You're a graphic artist. You've already done the cover of your mom's first book.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. And also, I wanted to tell any of our guests that are listening that if you have a story that needs to be told, please, or a testimony, please contact WYTV Channel 7 Christian Broadcasting. You can reach out to us on Facebook. We'd love to share your testimony as well. And then also, I'll have to ask you, Terry, with everything that's going on, you just had 2 twins. Twins alone is a lot. And then this situation, you're getting situation on top of situation. Who's there to support you? Is Soraya's father or something? Do you have other support system that is there that is helping you?
The police department, everybody stepped in, and they took my kids out. They were there. We really stayed in the hospital for weeks at a time when they did her chemo. So I was away. I really wasn't there for my younger twins. I wasn't there to see them crawl. I wasn't there to see them walk for the first time. So I really, really am thankful for family. I'm thankful to the Cumberland community because I could not have made it without their support as well.
Is amazing. Your strength, the strength of your daughter. That's wonderful that you had a great support system in place. And if there's anyone that's been touched by this story, and again, like I said, would like to share their testimony, the number for WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting is 980-202-2915. And now, Taraya, we've been talking a lot about you, sitting over there looking pretty and quiet. So what is it that you want to share? I just want to tell you, you have the power. Your story has the power to change lives. The strength that you've shown will touch people. I know it has already touched many people because it's touched me. So what is it that you would like to say?
Well, I just thank God for keeping me alive to this day to tell my testimony. So.
That's amazing. And so what grade are you in now?
8th.
Okay, so you're on your way to high school.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Yes, your story is definitely, I know it has touched many people, and I'm glad that you had the support that you needed through this situation. And if people would like to purchase your book, how can they purchase your book?
Now they have to directly purchase it through me because the publishing company that I actually published with Tape Publishing, they actually closed. So now you can actually get in touch with me at proven_miracles@yahoo.com.
Okay, that's wonderful. And when I talk with you, I ask you about scriptures that spoke to you in this situation. And the two you chose, I can definitely see all over this. The scripture that she said was Philippians 4:13, which is one of my favorites. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And we know he was behind this and strengthening everyone in this situation. And then the other one you said is, but he who was wounded, Isaiah 53:5, but he who was wounded for our transgressions was buried for our iniquities, the chastisement of our peace upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. And yes, he definitely healed your daughter. And that is just amazing. Just amazing. And again, if there's people in the audience that are struggling with any type of illness, and sometimes just going to that doctor and getting that diagnosis can just be enough to shake a person. And some people, it puts them in a place where they just get in a cocoon and don't want to do anything. But you showed through forward movement. You didn't always know which way to go, but you through prayer and you were consulting with the doctors. And then sometimes you made some decisions that were against what the doctor was saying, but you didn't just stand there and do anything, do nothing. You fought. And I just commend you on your courage.
Thank you. Thank you. But I do believe that no matter what you go through, I mean, God is God. So it's nothing too hard for him. Just trust him. That's the only thing I can say is just to trust him. I wouldn't have wished this on us, but out of all of this, I am really grateful. I am so grateful. And just to see what he's done in her. I mean, if you could see every day is something that wows me about her. And I really thank God for allowing us to go through it and allowing us to be able to help others who do go through it. Because, I mean, right now, it's an honor right now. But at first, it's nothing but God that brought us to this. It's nothing but God. So whatever you're going through right now, pray about it. Seek God about it. Don't let up on it. Just trust and believe for the positive. If you listen to every negative thing that somebody tells you, then it will go negative. So just stay positive and trust and believe in God, because that's the only one that can bring you through it.
Thank you. And I hope that there's someone out there that received that message that they needed to receive. And you're so right, that keeping that positive attitude really is pivotal, because sometimes just our thoughts alone can take us to a place where it's hard to come up, where it's hard to come back from. So yeah, that is just an amazing story. I love the fact to hear you say that I thank him for these problems. No, you didn't feel like that radiating out to other people. And I just thank you for sharing your testimony with us today.
I thank you for having us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And to our listeners today, we want to thank you for listening. And we definitely want to thank Terry Jackson and Taraya Jackson for being our guests today on What's Your Testimony. And we want to thank WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting for this great outlet and for reaching people with the love of Christ. And we'll hope that you'll tune in again next Sunday at 3 p.m. on What's Your Testimony.
It's time for What's Your Testimony? The show where we listen to you.
Guys, come here.
Affecting people one person at a time, meeting them where they are in life, and bringing them one step closer to Christ and His glory. Empowering, encouraging, and inspiring people to use their God-given talent. What's your testimony? What's